Hi everyone. So I'm Audrey Shantz and I'm a watercolor teacher, and this is my friend
Kelli Blouin, and I am a Zentangle teacher.
Yes, and so this is part 2 of a 2-part YouTube creator collaboration, because we think that's fancy,
Collab, yeah.
And or collab, if you will. And with Kelli, let's show them. We did this. So we did a Zentangle. Is it called Zentangle?
Mm-hmm.
Flowers together. So there's a video where she teaches me how to make this, and then now together we are all going to take this finished piece, which is not finished, and then we're going to finish it together. Right?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, so stick with us. I'll tell you supplies, and we're going to paint together.
And video 1 is linked below.
Oh yes, linked below. Oh, this is important. It's on her channel. So hers is called, what's your channel called?
Minutes of Zen.
Minutes of Zen. And you can type in Kelli Blouin and you'll find it for sure. But we'll make sure it's linked for you because it's not on this channel. Mm-hmm. And now, without further ado,
here we go.
Let's do this.
Yay.
Okay, everybody, let's go through supplies first. It's pretty simple today because we've already done the drawing. So this is our sketch that we did together. We've got, that's our watercolor paper. We need watercolor paints, and I've got this set, which is going to be linked below. And I am using a size 10 Winsor & Newton watercolor brush. And in a second, I'm going to show you all of Kelli's supplies too. But I have a towel. I like to use that instead of paper towel. You're not going to believe this jar. I'm embarrassed to show it to you, but it's a true painter's water jar. But I only have it filled up about this high. And then I have a little spray bottle. We're going to just use it to wet down our paints. And I have a heat tool. I'm going to try to not have us need it much. If you have an old hair dryer, that will work too. Or you can just let it sit for a minute. But just make sure that if we're drying it, that yours is also dry. And then let's talk about Kelli's supplies. So do you want to show?
Yeah, so I'm just using, if you purchased my May kit, my florals kit, it included this little limited palette. So for this collaboration, she's going to use her big palette, which is what I would typically use. But I'm going to try to do everything from this little one that was included in the kit. And the brush I'm using is an 06, or a 6.
Here, show us. Let's see.
But it's not the brush that was in the kit because I didn't bring mine.
Oh, okay. So
but it's a smaller
I'm
brush.
making her.
Yeah.
She's using one of my brushes.
So it'll be more difficult to fill in the big spaces than using a big brush like Audrey's, but
I believe in her. That's what I like to say. I believe in you.
Make it happen.
Let's just for a second. That is cute, right? So if you haven't done, I don't think you can get the kit anymore, can you?
No.
But you can go and do her video series, which is really cute. So, okay, so that's that. I think we are set up and ready, but this feels funny to me because I usually draw with you first. So first I'm going to kind of tell you where we're going. We have 2 of each type of flower, which I love. So 3 types of flowers, 2 of each. And we are going to basically paint them the same. And that's going to be simplified for you. But if you want to make any changes or variations, always, always, always do that. Just go with your gut. And we're going to do the pot in 2 separate colors. So we really might need a dryer at some point here. But anyways, we're going to start with making our puddles. So I think we'll just make sense of it all as we go. This is my palette, and I did clean off the top half, but I left the bottom half with paint on it, and I just wanted to tell you that you can always dip your brush into your water and refresh those colors and paint away. You never have to get rid of them, so if you want to be really thrifty with your paints, you can always do that, or you can always start afresh. I just took a wet paper towel and cleaned that off. So that's what we're starting with. And pick it any colors you want today. If you want to just like think about it ahead of time, great. If you want to wing it, that is also great. I'm going to try for like a terracotta color on the actual pot, and then a light blue down here. Kelli saw this idea and it was adorable. She showed it to me too, and I loved it. So for that, I'm going to take my water bottle and spray my paints off. We do not all have the same paint sets today. So you're just going to work with what you have, and you're going to make sure you like it before you take it to the paper. Do you need, you're good? Okay. Yeah, hers is on paper. She shouldn't spray it the same way. So if you've got that one, do it differently. But so for that one, I want to take, this is like a burnt sienna color. It's like a reddish brown. I'm going to take, I just got my brush. I'm ahead already. I took my brush and dipped it into my water first, okay? So I have a brush full of water, and now I'm gonna grab paints from here and make puddles over here, okay? So I've got a reddish brown, and see that I already sprayed it so it's pretty wet, and I'm gonna grab a bunch and make a puddle over here. As I look at that color, let's zoom in, shall we? I wanna look at it and see what I think. So you're all observing what you've got. Maybe yours is a straight brown with no red in it, then you're gonna wanna take red. But when you take red, just get a little bit, okay? And mix it together and see how I'm mixing the whole thing. And I wanna make sure that I like it. I'm gonna take my brush now and go right to my water and back. In watercolors, the way we get our colors lighter is by adding water. So if I don't like this color, it's too dark, another thing you can do is clean all the pigment out of your brush and come back, and that will lighten it up even more. So you might need some yellow in yours, or some of this standard orange color, and you can add all those colors. You can mix and match and play until you get a puddle that you like. One thing I want you to think about though is we are going to paint this, that terracotta color, and if you wanted to do wet on wet, you're gonna take right from your paints or from a darker, like, watch this, I'll make a little darker puddle right here that I can take from. If you do not know what I'm talking about, I have a 30-day video series. It's like 30 days of tips and tricks for watercolor, and we'll go in depth about tons of different techniques. But for now, we're gonna start with a light puddle, and then some sort of a darker puddle, or you can take from your paint, and that's optional. You can really just paint it this nice light color. That's one color. I will try not to be so informational about all of the colors. Let's get a pink. Are you gonna do the same colors as me or not?
So my little card, the orange is a burnt sienna.
Oh, great.
So I put that directly into a little tray that I have, and I added a dash of blue and a drop of red, and we'll see how it turns out. I don't know.
That sounds perfect. I love that. Okay, so we're gonna go into pink. You may have just red or you may have pink. Either one is great, and in watercolors we get it lighter by adding that water, so you can start with a red if you wanted to, and see they're just gonna be slightly different. So make a couple different puddles and play with them and see what you like. I actually was not gonna use this much of a red. Look, I'm just gonna mix them because you can do anything you want here. I want a nice light pink color though, because we'll do that as a background, and we're gonna end up doing dark pink on top, so you don't want this puddle to get too dark. Okay, I think this is going to be really beautiful. Lots of warm colors today, and warm is like reds, pinks. It's going to be pinks, reds, oranges, a lot of that, but you pick what you want, and we'll tell you how you can share your art with us at the end so we can see it too. So we've got those two. I want a little bit of orange, but I don't want much water in my orange. Okay, so don't skip out on this part. I know it might be annoying to get all these puddles ready, but this prep work is really what sets you up for success. So I took my brush, and since I already sprayed this and there was water on it, I didn't need to add any. And I want a puddle like this. See how it's a little smaller? Not so watery, but I want it to be a puddle to work from later. So I've got that one there. Let's see. We needed a light pink, an orange. Oh, let's pick our green. So for some reason on this one, I've kind of liked going with this sort of bluish green. It's a green that almost leans into teal, but we have so many good options for green. So totally trust your gut on it. If you wanted your green to be kind of a bluish green, you can pick a standard green. Let's say you have a 8-pack of paint colors, right? Pick a standard green and just add the tiniest bit of blue into it. For me, I've got this 4th one up, just naturally has some blue in it. And I really like that. So I'm not even gonna mix, because that it makes it a little trickier later on. Look at that, I just got green on here, and I'm gonna show you what I do about it. I just got my brush wet and added water over it, and I'm scrubbing it real quick. So if you accidentally, and this happens to so many people all the time, right? We get paint on our paper. If that happens, clean your brush, add water, and just scrub it, okay? For some of you, that's the most helpful thing you're gonna learn today. Okay, how are you doing with your puddles?
I'm great.
Okay, good. It's fun because she's mixing her colors, which is really fun because she has to create a little differently with her small pack. Okay, I think we've got our green. Make sure your green isn't too dark. or too light. You know, this is where we look at it and make sure we like it. I think that's it for now, but we will be making some darker puddles in a little bit. But for now, this is all the setup that we need. So I think we're gonna get into it. The reason I think we will need a hairdryer right now is because when you look at this pot, it touches a lot of different things. Okay, so let's start with it. And then we can dry it, and then hopefully we'll be able to work around without having to go back and forth so many times. Great. So, okay, so this is our biggest space. So we need a bigger puddle. So notice we have a big size puddle of that. Check your puddle. And I'm not going to do this, what is it called? A dish?
Little plate or dish.
Yeah, this little dish, the same color as the planter. I just thought about that because we're adding blue. Okay, so you can do whatever you want on that, but look at this. I'm taking my brush and I'm really getting it kind of full of my paint. I'm going to very carefully start up top and work kind of to the right and down to fill in this shape efficiently. What we don't want is very little paint and like this back and forth and very, I like to call it precious. We're not going to be precious, okay? Because you will have, this will be fully dry before you get here. And with watercolors, it just needs to be a little bit wet.
So I'm using a size 6 brush. It's really small. So I just want to make sure, like, anybody who's using a smaller brush, focus on the belly of the brush and really making big strokes.
Yes.
Not just the tip of it.
Absolutely. So it's easier with this size 10 brush. She'll have a little bit of a harder time, but yeah, she'll lean into the belly of her brush, which is this part right here. So just more pressure to fill a bigger space, and she'll just keep it moving. So we're going to start over here. I'm using the tip of my brush to run along those edges. Okay. If you did not have a waterproof pen or bleed proof pen, this is when you're going to know it. And I'm sorry for you, for somebody that's happening. But we're going to take from here. I don't need to be doing, like, we're going to treat this whole thing as one shape. So I can come right over that, just connect them. When you're in these tiny spots, you're going to lift up, press lightly on your brush, which makes your brush tip a little smaller. Okay. And notice I'm moving. Okay. So this is, it's hard to do, but we're all just going to push forward, lean into your brush, and that helps it so that this beginning and the end are all wet at the same time, because I would like us to do a little wet on wet technique. Now, if yours is drying or you don't feel like learning too many new things today, then maybe you just leave this exactly like this. It's a nice, really light, soft, beautiful color. If you want to get into the wet on wet, it all has to be shiny and reflective like this. I just touched my brush to my towel, and now I'm getting right into that darker color. And all I want to do is add just a little bit of shadowing. See that? Now I'm going to zoom in for you. You got to let it just have no control for a second. You're going to get control later. Well, actually, you have control because of all this detail we did with Kelly. So now we're letting this be just loosey-goosey, okay? And I went underneath the lip of this because there might be a little shadow if our light's kind of above, right? And maybe a little bit over here too. Now you see this is drying. So I'm going to quickly clean my brush, tap it on my towel, and with that damp brush, I'll soften that line up.
So with my limited palette, I made like a terracotta that I mixed, but for my darker, I'm going directly into my orange because it is that burnt sienna.
Yep, perfect.
So not into the puddle, but back directly into that orange.
Yeah, so for her, and she didn't need this, she can go right to here, and that's great when you're using a darker color. You just kind of have to watch what's happening and make sure you like it. I think I'm going to darken up these sides of the pot just a little bit too. You're just guessing on this. Just guess a little bit, which I know can be hard. And then look, I'm going to come in a little bit more. And everybody, you can play. This is wet on wet is playtime, and it's so fun. You just have to let yourself relax your shoulders for somebody. And then even from here, I can clean that brush and kind of dry it on my towel a little. And if I didn't like how this looked, I can just press and lift. I just play within that, you know, just think of it as water and just a little science experiment. What happens when I do this? And then we want that whole thing to dry at the same time. So you can leave it like this. You could, while it's wet, I can add in a little bit more down here. And then when you feel like, yeah, that looks good, stop. Or if it's starting to dry as hard lines, that's another good time to stop. And then I hate to have to go to the dryer already. Well, you know what? Okay, we're not gonna go to the dryer yet. We're gonna come up here and just do this. So why am I talking about drying things? So with watercolors, you just don't wanna paint next to something that's wet, or because it's water, those colors will just bleed right over. So we couldn't paint either of these or the stems, but really we can go up here, and so we shall. Let's do this one first, okay? What was this one called again, Kelly?
Joyful.
That was called Joyful, and so we're gonna go into these because we can do two, so you don't have to learn two things in a row. So for this one, we are gonna do wet on wet, and it's for everybody. If you're like, no, I can't, then don't. Just do a nice light pink color for this background, okay? But for this, we'll need a light pink. That's why I have this puddle of orange, and remember, this doesn't have quite so much water. And then we'll also add some dark pink. So whichever color you took and got your pink from, if it was a red or a pink, we're gonna go into that one with our brush. We're gonna all do it together, so it's gonna be okay. I just sprayed my paints again because I know I'm gonna go into them. I want them to be easy to use. Okay, so we're gonna go into Joyful. Let's pick one of them. Make sure it's not, if your Joyful is touching this, you need to make sure that it's not wet. I'm gonna leave that to you though. So I'm gonna take my brush. Let me tell you, it's cleaned in my jar, and I wiped it on my towel like this. Okay, and from there, I'm gonna go and put half of my brush into this light pink color. And I'm gonna fill in this whole thing like one shape. That's it. I'll zoom in, we'll do this together. Okay, so remember, the tip of your brush has to run along the edges. Otherwise, you know, you'll have white spaces there, or it'll be jagged looking. And if this is right away too dark, you need to clean out your brush and come back to it. Just leave what's there, clean out your brush and come back, and that should lighten it up because you'll take it all out of your brush. But we want to fill this in with a light pink color. Now, mine is a little bit too wet, and I want to show you that. So I just cleaned my brush and dried it on my towel. I'm going to take that brush and just touch it and lift up some of that excess water. You basically want to see the texture of the paper through it. You don't want any puddling or pooling. Okay. And from here, we need to work kind of efficiently. Let's actually take that dark pink first. So I'm not adding any water. I'm going right to my dark pink paint, and I'm going to touch it to that center. Let me zoom in because this part's fun. And we're going to just touch it a couple times to the center. It should be wet enough that it can just take that paint a little. Okay, we're gonna get a nice little bleed. I'm gonna clean my brush and add orange. Cleaned my brush, tapped it on my towel. I'm gonna go into this little puddle that we made, okay? And while it's wet, I'm gonna tap that orange around the dark pink. I'm zooming in. I know this is a bit complex, but also it's simple because you're just playing. So how's yours going?
Good.
Oh my gosh, it's so cute. It's so fun to paint with somebody else. If you guys can get together with someone, because you just get to see two of the same thing at the same time, and it's never the same in watercolor. Very beautiful. Okay, we're gonna do the same thing again. So if you remember, we're starting with that light pink. I'm putting about half my brush in there, and we'll treat the whole thing like it's one shape. If this didn't work for you, I want you to think, was it drying while you worked? If so, you need to add more water. And if you lost control, you just didn't have any control, you had too much water. So let's try to make those adjustments while we do it again. Now, I want us to be able to fill in these little tiny circles later, so make sure that your pink doesn't get too dark right now, because we need to go light to dark in watercolor, and we want to make sure we can see the difference. Oh, it's a lot of words. I just want y'all to have success with watercolor because I find it so much fun. Okay, while it's wet, make sure it's not puddling or pooling. Okay, grab that dark pink right from my paints, touch it to that center, and watch what happens. You know, if it doesn't go very far, don't stop yet. I love that, so I'll clean the pigment out of my brush. I wiped it on my towel. I'm gonna go right into that orange puddle, or into your orange paint if you need to. And I'm gonna just tap it around here. If it's out of control, you have too much water. If it's dry and it's not blending like this, you don't have enough water. And I think we are gonna need to see Kelli's, so hold on here. So if you're ever gonna show anybody, lift your artwork up flat like this, don't tip it. Look at how beautiful that is.
I love how vibrant your pink to your orangish color is.
So you see how dark my center is? And they're both,
Yes.
it's the same thing, but it's just coming off a little differently. For this one, I just grabbed more of that dark pink paint when I was there. So
pretty.
And if that's too bold for you, then, you know, just try to make those little adjustments as you go and it just pays off. That is cute, huh?
I love it.
Okay, I love this. So we're keeping our color palette matching pretty good today, which actually really makes me think the light blue down here. So we're going to decide that in the end, I think, unless we did these blue. Okay, so stay tuned on that one. We're going to stick with our making decisions on the spot. So we're going to stick with our pink again. If you want it to be the same pink, great. If you don't, go ahead and vary it a little bit by maybe adding red into it, or maybe adding a little orange into your puddle, so it's just a little bit different. I'm going to leave mine the same though, just for the sake of simplicity, and we're going to come to this one, which is called
Hannery.
We're going to go into Hannery, and we are going to just skip that center circle, but paint light pink over all the rest of it. So similar, but in this case, then we're going to let the whole thing dry. In the technique that's called glazing, we'll do our dark pink layer after. So just skip that center, or if you, okay, so do you notice this one is different? You guys, I need to zoom in, I'm sorry. There we go, that's better. Okay, so this was the initial one. So realize that this has a different shape than this one. We did a little variation. Okay, so for the light pink, it doesn't matter. So we'll just start painting, but just save that center. I just want to make sure I don't accidentally have us cover up something we didn't want covered. All right, well, if you need to relax your shoulders, do that now. It happens a lot. Usually I light a candle at the beginning of my videos. I forgot to today. Okay, so I like that this is a nice, even pink wash. So you can kind of see it like that. It's nice and light because I'm going to work on top of it. And I don't see any puddling or pooling. The whole thing's going to kind of dry basically at the same time. You can see that light reflecting on it. Okay, so we're done with it. We're going to let it be. And I want to come here next, but you need to see if your flower pot is dry. And we all use different amounts of water. So some of you it's totally dry, some of you it's still wet. If it's wet, I want you to take a dryer or heat tool and just dry your terracotta pot. Make sure we're solidly dry. And now let's go to this one and we'll save that center again. Same color or different color. Here, I'll actually make it a little bit different. I'm going to darken up my pink just a little on this. So I just added a little bit more pink into there. Oh, and for this one, yeah, perfect. Okay, go over the whole thing, save that center circle. Can you guys tell I'm just like a little bit more chaotic than Kelli?
No, it's great.
I'm gonna say this little paint palette that she gave you guys, it's like she's nailing it with it. It's so cool. It's cool to see you can start with just 6 colors and do a lot with it. Okay, so this one's just a little bit darker than that, and I think that's fun. I like to usually in a floral arrangement do similar colors, but a little bit different along the way. So we're gonna let that one dry as well. If you'll notice, mine is not perfect, and I'm going to show you how. See how there's white space left here and here, and I'm actually not even going to fix it because it does not need to be perfect, and I think you'll see that in the end. Oh wait, I will fix this one though. Look, that's like a giant. I'll fix some things, okay? Okay, so we've got those two done, and we're actually just going to wait a minute because we don't want to work right next to that middle color or our colors will bleed, and in this case, we don't want that bleed. Okay, so Kelli, what do you think? For these flowers, I was going to have them be orange, and then the whole thing is pink and orange, and then we could maybe make this pink or orange, or green to match the leaves, or we could go blue and blue. I need to know, I need to hear from your gut.
The orange is better because my blue is so vibrant. I just don't know if it's going to look
okay.
match the...
Yeah, I feel
colors.
like blue is the riskier one. Somebody do blue on those two flowers, okay?
Let us know how it turns
yeah,
out.
and then do this blue. And I'm thinking a light teal blue or a little softy, like robin's egg blue. That'd be so cute.
That would be.
but you do what you want and what your gut tells you. So we are going to make our orange puddle a little bigger. So I have this one here. I'm actually going to try one more. Oh, I don't have that light. Okay. I have this one. I'll take this and see if I can give them just a little bit more. I don't know if you guys can tell. I just feel like you need a little bit more light. Okay, I'm dipping my brush into my water. I did half my brush. And I'm adding it to this orange puddle I've already made. But since I didn't need much and I needed it to be concentrated here, since I'm going to use it differently, we need to set it up differently. So this is a nice orange color. Go as bright or as... Actually, this is going to be medium. We're going to do wet on wet. You're going to love this one. So keep this decently light. And make sure that this paint is wet. So you might want that spray bottle again. Just give it maybe one spray. We'll start with this puddle. And as we load in color, it'll be from our paint this time. All right, are you with me?
Yes.
Okay, so we're gonna go into this one. We are avoiding this bottom oval. What's this one called again?
Flux Echo.
Flux Echo. And Kelli and I were talking today about how I have no memory of anything. So that's why I've retained no names. Okay, so we are going to do this whole thing as if it's one shape. So all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 petals. Okay, using the tip of your brush on those edges again and leaning into the belly of your brush so that we cover it somewhat efficiently. And the whole thing is wet at the same time, which is always what we're looking for wet on wet. Okay, but I have puddling and pooling, so I'll show you. See how I can't really see the texture through there, so I cleaned my brush. I'll just touch it just a little bit wherever it's got too much. Now I can see that light reflecting. It's nice. I'm going to take this brush. I am not adding water, but I am going straight into that darker paint, and I did 3 or 4 swipes. And right along this base, right up on the top of that oval, we're gonna just add in that darker color. And see how right away it just gives such a lovely, I don't know, bloom of color. Actually, that's a watercolor word, so this isn't that, but it's just a lovely bleed, color bleed. And if you wanted to do another color, you could, but for this, I just like that darkness, which makes sense at the base of that flower.
Love it.
So if your top part got darker than you wanted and you can't see a big difference, you can always clean out your brush, dry it on your towel, and you can take this brush and just lift up any darkness that you want to, okay? And if this base didn't get as dark or as vibrant as you want, just load in some more of that color. Remember, we are not really adding water. That's why we made up our paints like we did, because if we had too much water, it would flow all the way across and you'd kind of lose control. Okay, you guys are rock stars. It's so fun to watch. We needed to do all of our videos next to each other.
I know it.
I really like it. Doing the same thing again. So make sure that your nice light orange puddle is ready and your pot is dry. And we'll fill that whole thing in like it's one shape. So this is also a limited palette we're using today, and if you're using these same colors, that's why you'll like it, is because it sort of ensures that it's cohesive. Okay, this whole thing is painted. I can see the light reflecting a little. I'm going right into my paint. Remember, right into that 3 or 4 times maybe, and I'm gonna come right here. I do think this one's a little drier, so it probably won't go quite as far. So I'm just gonna tap my brush around. We're always adapting because it's not, you know, it's not ever gonna be the same. Water's tricky like that. If you didn't like it, you could take your brush, get it wet, and just tap off a little bit of the water, and then look, I'm gonna just soften this, but you will see some cool lines later. I think I'll just leave that because you should see some blooms here, which just means that I added water on top. So our light orange is gonna dry, and then the water will dry on top. And since they have different drying times, it looks different. So I'm gonna leave that, and we'll see later on if it did what I'm saying it did. We're testing me. Okay, how's yours?
Great.
Cute. You guys, let's see Kelly's. Here, let's show them. Can you lift it?
Mm-hmm.
It's fun because her colors are a little bit different than mine, and yet so similar. Gotta unzoom for you. Isn't that nice? Cuties.
So I want to point out something that on this one, I added the darker and left it. This one I played and played and played and played, and now it just looks muted.
Well, do you know what?
Like I just kept on touching it, and I think one thing I've learned from you is to not keep touching
If you can just
it.
get it in there and leave it alone,
Yes.
it's a good technique. Yeah, I almost wondered if your ink ran, but I don't think it is. I think it's just like a combo. But the more you play with it, I mean, you guys, this is just paper and water, so it can't survive everything, you know. Okay, so I think we are at a good spot, I'm gonna say, to give it a quick dry, just in case, because then we can work next to everything. Okay, so if you've dried yours and your paper rolled up at all, you can gently just kind of roll it backwards like this, and it'll kind of flatten it out. And I think, so Kelly and I just chatted while we dried, and I think let's do the centers. Like, what if we do these blue and this blue? Like, I think that would be really cute together. If you don't want to do that, you can just paint the base the same as the terracotta and keep it nice and simple. And then you could do like pinks and oranges in these, or yellows, right? And then we'll do all of our leaves. So that gives you some options, but let's just do it instead of talk about it, right? Okay, so Kelly has a different palette than I do. So if we're going to get into that blue, my thought was, because hers is an ultramarine blue, which is like a very, it's like a darker, almost, I don't know the right way to describe that, but
It's very bright.
it's bright and dark. It's a very darkish blue. Did you like that? Okay. So for her, I just said, let's go like kind of light with it. Don't get too dark. For me, I am going to play for a second, and I want you to do the same thing. Play with your palette and see what you like. Okay, so I want you to grab some blue, just pick anything, and look at it on your palette and then see what you think. I like this one. I'm gonna clean my brush and try something up here. I'm kind of intentionally not telling you the exact colors I'm using today because I know we're all coming from different palettes. If you paint with me a lot, I do use this same palette, and I'll tell you where things are a lot of times. So these are so similar, so I guess I like that. So just kind of a nice, just think a happy blue. And I'm not gonna make mine too dark. Okay, so I've got a puddle made up, and I am changing this a little bit. I was gonna go like basically keep it all pinks and oranges with some yellow, but instead we're gonna do this because then we can still do that little tray at the bottom and have something that'll match it. So I'm coloring book style, just getting in there. Notice I have almost too much water. So for this, you don't need very much at all. And if you find you have too much, just tap your brush on your towel and come back, and usually that just took care of what you needed. Okay, that's so cute. Anybody who wants this little bonus, I'm gonna do wet on wet just at the base of this guy. So I just got into my darker blue and just did a little bit. Isn't that nice? It just gives it some dimension. That's a bonus, you don't need to do it. Okay, and then I'll take my same light blue, and don't forget this guy down here. This is more like me because I do tend to always do like warm and cool colors. Balanced is very like me. So this gives us blue, which is on the cool side of things, and then all these nice warm pinks and oranges. Okay, that's cute. How's yours coming along?
Good.
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 Yeah, I like yours. It almost leans into a purple. I think it's like an indigo-ish blue. Ish, I said. Then I can't be wrong. Okay, so we've got these done, and then we'll get this bottom part. Now remember, for that dish at the bottom, we need more paint. So why don't you take your puddle, and mine's here. I'm just gonna add a little bit of paint and water. Make sure you like it over here. I'm not doing anything with wet on wet, I don't think, with this one. But, and then I'll just start in as one shape, because it actually just is one shape. I'll work left to right and just fill that in. It's cute. I had to stop and look. It's very cheerful. Okay, I want just a little bit more color in it. So while it's wet, I added more blue to my puddle, and I go right back in so that the whole thing still dries at the same time. Oh, I like it. Okay, I'm looking at my paper to see what's left, and I'm just gonna observe it out loud. I have all of my leaves and stems, which I'm gonna do green, but you can do anything you want. You could do dark pink, that'd be cute too. And then I need to do my second layer of color on top of what's already there. So I'm going to say, let's go ahead and get into our green and fill in that first layer. So it's just, we're going to pick a green, paint all of it at the same time, but this one has wet paint next to it. So I'll do this one last, and I'll make sure this is dry first. Okay, so I have my puddle already made up. If you decided to change colors or whatever, just do it now first, and then we'll paint from there. Oh, you're going to like this because Kelly's color is different than mine, and that'll be great.
Different.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, so for this, and let's say you've got this big brush like me, you're going to be best off to put about 1/3 of this brush in your puddle. And because these are skinny, right, you're not going to press very hard, because when you press, it makes your brush wider. So light on the tip of your brush, hold your brush vertically, like don't tip it sideways too much, right? And you're just going to get in. And if two leaf stem shapes touch, you just let them touch and treat it as one. And I have pooling right there, but I'm just going to grab that in a second. I'm just going to keep moving first. I like to call this coloring book style because really you're just taking your paint and filling it in. It's really fun to think about your colors ahead of time too. Like if you had a scrap piece of paper and you could just do a bunch of little swatches next to each other and choose. It's these slight differences that make our artwork different, you know. So it's kind of fun to look at that ahead of time, even though you saw we did it on the fly. Okay, so this looks pretty dry to me. And so I'm just gonna make sure I don't have too much paint on my brush. And I am gonna do it without drying, but you need to look at yours and make sure. If it is wet, they'll bleed together. You might be mad about it, you might not. Just depends on what it looks like, you know. But the safe way is to work next to something that's dry if you don't want color bleeds. I like it.
Cool.
I want to show them your green. So do you want to hand me yours for a second? So mine is like a bluish green and hers is a yellowish green. And so you can see hers has that sort of just happy, vibrant, I don't know, healthy looking green to it. Mine's just a different color palette. Mine's a little bit more not realistic maybe. Hers is more, but then this one coordinates differently. So you see how they've got these differences to them.
I feel like my blues look like water, like it's sitting in like a little
yeah. Yeah.
It's such a dark blue.
It'll remind you to water.
Exactly.
Okay, so now we are ready to work on top of these layers. You'll have an easier time if you dry this so you don't accidentally bump into your green. So feel free to stop for a second and do so if you would like to. But I'm gonna just try not to touch it. And what I want to do is we're gonna get a nice dark pink color. So whatever you used to make this, you'll use that same one, and we'll make this tiny puddle. So let's get in here. I'm using the same one. I have very little water on my brush, and I'm gonna do a small puddle like this. Okay, it's much smaller, but it needs to still be a puddle and move freely. Think about like a gel pen and how you need it to, like, you know, it has to glide. And that's why we make it a puddle instead of just coming from our paints. And then we're gonna fill in, so like if we take this one, which, Kelly, tell me the name again. Hannery. I'll write them down next time. We'll take Hannery and we will just go into these small spaces and really lightly, like you did for the stems, we're just gonna come in with this dark pink. So this is called glazing, or it's called wet on dry. And you see it just sits right on top. So no color bleeds or blends this way. You just get a nice new layer. Turn your paper if you want to, because it really makes it easy. And then put your pinky down. We call it a little support pinky. And sometimes that will just help your hand to maybe not shake as much, or just to easily stay in these lines. See, now we're getting some contrast and some darkness in there. I'm gonna also do this center right here. So like the aura that went around our center with that dark pink. And then I'm gonna pause for a second. I could do those dark pink or I could do them orange. So I'm just gonna wait because I don't know. And I'm gonna come right over to this second one and I'm gonna do it dark pink, but remember it has a different shape in the center. So I'll follow that shape and paint that. Kelli's is so cute. I always love her round shapes, and there's just, I know we don't like to talk about perfection around here, but compared to me, I think her things are always very perfecty.
And I always think yours are, don't you think that's the way it goes though? We never love our own as much as we love.
And you just like notice differences when someone's isn't the same as yours too. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so I'm really light on the tip of this brush. You don't have to be mad at me and use this brush. You can use a tiny one, okay? I didn't show you one, but you can always use a tiny one. I did it this week with something and I was like, man, that was a little easier. But I do most of my painting with one. So we've got these done. I still don't know about those. So I want to get into this next one and I'm going to choose dark pink for these little circles over here. Now, whatever you choose, it just needs to be darker than what's behind it. And now I say needs to be, and you can actually do anything you want, right? So you can test out if you've got a great idea, go for it. But because watercolor is transparent, you're not starting at white, you know, so it has to, you can just see what happens. But I always use a darker color on top, and then I'm gonna do that center as well. That nice dark pink. Oh, that is so cute. And then we're coming over, we'll do the same thing to this guy. I like the variety in these flowers today. Okay, we're almost there, I think. Because usually I would do the ink at the end, so it's fun that it's already there. I'm gonna choose what color. I'm gonna do the orange just because I want to see it. We'll see if we like it or not.
I did pink, so then we can compare.
Okay, perfect. And I think that's our last thing. Is there anything else we should do on here that you think, Kelly?
So the only thing I'm thinking is that I might go over and ink the outside of my things with kind of that messy line.
Oh, okay. Do you want to?
So maybe
guys, I'm not even asking. I'm gonna make her swing in here because you know what else I want to see her do is we talked about those little squigglies or spirals. So I'm gonna take this one. We're both gonna make sure that our artwork is completely dry, and then we're gonna come in and do a few more things with our ink.
Okay, this is Kelly. I'm just looking at our two pictures and oh my gosh, it's so fun. On my Facebook group called Let's Tangle, every Sunday I do show and tell Sunday. And it's amazing when, 50 people do the same exact video, but come up with such different things and different variations of how they draw things and how they embellish things. So I love it. This one is Audrey's. I'm going to hand that back. So in my last week of watercolor, we did something where we just kind of add extra lines. And so I just wanted to do it on here, and you don't have to, Audrey. But when I do watercolor, like look right here, like I always go out of the lines. Things don't line up perfect, and I kind of like that. I don't mind that my colors go out of the lines a bit, but doing this technique, I wonder if there's a name for it.
I don't know. I think I am gonna do something different, and so we can see the differences at the end.
Cool. Yeah. Okay. So I'm just gonna take my pen and very quickly, I'm gonna start with my largest shape here. I'm just going to go along the edge and see how I'm just adding this wiggly line. And it's unnecessary. You don't have to do it. but it makes me feel like the things that maybe I wasn't as happy with how straight something was or whatever, this just gives that permission of the wiggly lines.
It's funny because I usually do the ink at the end, and I think that's exactly what the ink can do, is after you've painted with watercolors, it can clean it up. You just get to
maybe
like
that's why
get
I like
control.
it, because I've done that in your classes before. And I don't know that I'm going to do all of the inside details that way, probably just these outer edges. Let's see. Let's see how quickly I'm going around. And on these bigger petals, I'm just almost doing a tethered aura.
We're in the zone.
I know. It's almost just like messy lines. Mine is done.
I knew you were going to beat me.
Because I did it so just messy. And
I'm almost done.
On her sample that she made, she did these cute little like texture lines on part of the pot, and I want to do that.
Oh, did you do the squiggles? I have to
Oh,
have
I did
the
not
squiggles.
do the squiggles.
Why am I obsessed with them today?
I don't know. I don't know where to put them. Okay, I'm gonna have one.
Let's do them different, and then we'll show.
Okay, okay, let's do that. And then I'm watching you.
I just like to go up and away from a stem, as I think kind of the thing that I maybe would do.
I know, I don't really have a lot of space for that.
I know, we didn't leave a lot. I agree. But I'm trying to find that a little bit. I don't know why I like them so much today, but I definitely do.
I do too. So she's doing hers mostly off her stems. I'm doing mine wherever I feel like putting one.
Love it. And then we should have everybody sign it too.
Yes. I'm going to put some of these little clusters of 3 dots. I don't know why.
Mm-hmm. For cuteness.
For cuteness. I'm also going to do like some dots like along the edge of a couple of things.
Okay. All right, I'm handing you mine in 1 second before.
All right, we need to sign it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I'm just going to do my initials, but I think Audrey usually does her whole name.
Yep.
Okay, let's see. This is so fun. I'm going to move this out of the way here, I think. Look how cute.
It is cute.
I love them. I love them. I feel like there needed to be squiggles up here, but now I like yours that you just left it open.
Yeah, that is exactly where I thought it would go.
Yeah.
Should I do it right now?
No, because it looks kind of just nice and clean.
I did, so for my line work, I actually did like line weight, and I have a video on that in my 30-day series. But do you see how like underneath the bottoms, like it makes them kind of just like maybe look like they stand out a little bit?
Yes, and like underneath your leaf up here, you did some weighting.
Yeah.
Okay,
yours is so cute. I really like that style a lot, where people just kind of do a couple lines, and it really gives some freedom to you as well, because if you ever get a line that you didn't love or didn't go right next to your watercolor.
But then I feel like I went a little crazy with my little squiggles and dots. I wish I would have kept it to a minimum.
It's like calligraphy. Yours are so beautiful.
Calligraphy.
Yeah.
All right, there we go. Videos 1 and 2.
Yes.
That was amazing.
Let's give them both of our pages, and they can share anywhere they want. Does that sound good?
Yes.
Because you can share either just the ink work, or you can share the watercolor, or both. It's fun too, because on Facebook you can share photos, but you can't on YouTube. So if you want to go, we'll link these below, or we'll write them down in the description underneath of this video. We will have her Facebook page and mine, and they're just like groups that you can share artwork in. So we'll make sure that's there for you. And
yeah, so my page, my Facebook group is Let's Tangle.
You think we should say them out loud? Okay.
I am. I don't know.
Not like duh. Okay, yeah. Let's Tangle.
And yours is?
And mine is Audrey's Art Club. And you can find it if you go to Audrey Shantz Art on Facebook. And I don't know what we're going to do next, but we'll let you know.
I don't know. We're going to start taking walks and chatting. Yeah. Yes. And also, don't forget, Audrey, is starting her florals series. And I don't know if it's going to be called Summer Flowers or Summer Florals, or she'll come up with something amazing.
I'm going to give you a little sneak peek of the printable, okay?
It's going to be amazing.
This is unpainted, but we'll be working on all of these different sort of summer flowers or wildflowers, one at a time, each week throughout the summer.
I love it. All right, that was wonderful.
Okay,
we'll see you guys next time. Thanks. Bye-bye.